First off, I want to say that I put out some wrong information about Carmelo Anthony's family. Apparently, they've been renting that house since 2011, so they weren't using their funds, the legal funds, for that. It's it's really there's false information that floats out everywhere, and I was too quick to put out information. So I retract that and I apologize. I put out the wrong information. Um, on this subject of the Florida State shooter, so people were talking about it, and it doesn't seem like it was political. It was his mom was is a deputy, and I guess he used one of her guns or both of her guns or something. I haven't heard anything about his father. This took obviously place in Florida. um, we don't know the motive. I guess there's very sparingly a digital footprint so far. Like I guess they found his Instagram, and I mean there was like two or three pictures of the guy. And people were. I was watching the Pat Bet David podcast. You know, they were talking about this like an hour ago, and a pretty interesting graph they put up was after 2020, like they showed the school shootings and stuff, but after 2020, there's a huge spike up. And this is up my wheelhouse of like, I'm not an expert at anything, but like something that I really, this is more my bread and butter of like relationships and psychological things like that, social behavior, stuff like that. That's stuff that really intrigues me. And they were and I think that the big factor, it's not just one factor. People are trying to figure out what's going on. Why we have more school shootings? Why does it seem like kids want to, like you just had that the Carmelo Anthony. He just stabbed Austin, that dude Austin. I forgot his last name, but which is bad. That just shows you like who's really getting on the headlines. Not the victim. I mean, the victim's out there, but obviously the headlines go to the murderer. So, it's being politicized by the left. That's what they do. There was a shooting by a black kid, which hardly got anything off the mainstream media in Dallas like 2 days ago. 2 days ago, he shot 4 kids, and it's interesting how when it's a white kid that does a school shooting, it's all over the place. It blows up. But if it's not a white kid, it's kind of like not really talked about. I think that's quite interesting by the media, why they do that. It's obviously there's a narrative going on with that. I don't know if they're trying to start some type of race war, if that's what they want. They obviously like to see conflict, so because that's what sells, it'll get attention. But I think that the mainstream media is definitely they're playing a factor in this as well, and you hear about it's like another school shooting, right? It's like another one, really. Nobody, like, why are they doing this? Like the Columbine one was like, that's the one everyone remembers. That was the first one. And then like no one really remembers any of the people who do these things. We don't remember them at all, but yet this keeps happening. Why does this keep happening? And it could be like, we don't know in this case, the Florida State kid, if he was on meds or whatever, and there was a student that there was a girl that was shot on the side, and like they're just walking by, drinking their latte, filming like that. Hopefully she's all right, but just filming her laying down there. And I'm hearing them talk on Timcast about, why are the kids doing this? What's wrong with the kids? It's not just the kids, man. It's a degenerate downward spiral of a society we have. Uh, there's lack of morality. There's lack of parenting. There's lack of community. There's lack of family. I'm guessing that a lot of these kids probably spent most of their time with just technology. So like, you know, it, when you're on the technology, and then you go out in real life and you actually like it, just like there's a disconnection of real life and technology. They're just like too much on the technology, I think. And I think that plays a factor. And I don't think it's like the video games or violent video games or anything like that. Uh, I think that there's something missing deep down with these people. Uh, I remember when I was younger, I was a teenager, and I was thinking some of the same things too. When I was younger, like had fantasies because I was uh, what is it? Just outcasted. Completely outcasted from. And felt rejected by everybody, and I think that that's a big. Isolation is a huge factor, and that plays a factor in this type of thing. And obviously, I didn't do it. I didn't go through it. It was just like fantasizing, and like that could lead to it. You know what I mean? And I would never do nothing like that. But I'm just saying, like when I was going through that, emotions are running. You don't have a strong father figure in the household. Now there could be strong father figures in the households, and some of these. It's not like this is a one size fits all. Like people are different. People are different like types of environments and stuff like that. But I really relate to Gen Z. I really do in a lot of different ways. I mean, not everything, but like a lot of my frustration, and I fight for Gen Z because it's like I feel like I've gone through what they've gone through, like when I was younger. Like I felt rejected, isolated, lack of support, lack of family. Everyone's all like doing their own thing, and I guess that, and maybe that's just a normal thing in life, but lack of purpose, not knowing what you're gonna do with your life. But there's a huge thing as well that people aren't talking about, and I've noticed it, and it's the lack of empathy. So the lack of empathy because we're having not real human connection, not on the internet, but like in person. Um, Everything is about materialism nowadays. It seems like stuff is more important than people. Uh, you know, we have it's pretty like normal nowadays, even for conservative women to, you know, put their careers ahead of their children. They would rather just pawn them off to like school or whatever. I mean, like I said before, if both parents, if you're struggling, you both have to work. It is what it is, man. But like, I'm seeing like women that don't have to work, but they like Candace Owens and are Caitlyn Bennett. Like, why are you working? Why aren't you home with raising your baby? And I think that causes a disconnection as well. Not when the thing that people have to understand and they don't talk about as it is so necessary. And I don't, and this might not go with the school shooter, but like there is an abandonment feeling because I felt it when I was younger. I never knew what it was, man. When I was younger, I hated. I used to say I told my mom I hated her. Like I wanted to die. I wanted her to die. I would like destroy my room. I was very upset individual when I was younger, and this was when I was like 7, man. When I was like 7 and 8, like I was very angry. What changed things is one day we talked and I got it out. A big reason is when I was younger, I thought I was the reason why my parents split up. Now, I think that a lot of these kids don't feel heard. They don't feel like they're getting enough attention. They don't feel like they're being listened to as well. So like that plays a factor. It's just like binding all of this. Um we have a toxic society, and just like in the 80s and just like in the 90s or in the 70s and the 80s, like huge with serial killers. Why was that? They were a reflection of society. I'm sure the serial killers are going through some of the stuff that I am talking about, with the isolation. Not all of them, but a lot of them. There seems like there was a lot of kind of issues with their mothers. Lack of, like, if you think about it logically, the mother is an incubation tool for that baby to grow in. They are connected. They are one. They're literally connected with each other with the umbilical cord. That baby needs the mother in their life. They don't need the mother to, especially at that age, like if the mother isn't there, maybe she's got problems or she's not a good mom or whatever. I think it causes a lot of issues with the child. And so there's other people that can get more into depth with the psychological issues with abandonment, that are way more experts in this area. But I definitely like putting things together. I think that plays a big factor, why kids are screwed up. And like, listen, man, you think that like it's the kids that are the problem. Like this is a problem, man. Like school shootings is definitely a huge problem. The lack of respect for human life, because they feel like they probably, no one gives a shit about their life, and they just, when you grow in that environment, when you feel like nobody gives a shit about you, you might have your needs taken care of course. You got food in your belly, you got a shelter, but there's a lot more that comes with raising kids than just like providing. There's a lot of emotional stuff that a lot of people, like, they don't think about and they don't understand. Like kids, they're programmed by their parents, by their, not only just telling your kid what to do and telling them right from wrong, whatever, but like showing them with an example. A lot of, like, how are kids supposed to, and I'm guilty of this when I was a little bit, not a little bit, but like my kids were a little bit too much on the video games. I balanced it okay. Like I made them go out and play. We played sports and stuff like that, and I taught them different things and taught them how to swim, and kind of I just like, I wish it was a little bit more balanced instead of it being like 60. And when they started getting to teenagers, they got to be in it to playing the video games a little bit more, a lot more actually. But when they were younger, I still like had that foundation, and um, I haven't been perfect, not at all. But I wanted them to feel. I wanted them to be kind of raised how the peers were raised. Go to the. I didn't want them to be like one of those kids that were completely outcasted. Like one of those when I was growing up. Like I remember kids that wouldn't even celebrate their birthdays or whatever because they're Jehovah's Witnesses, or Christmas or whatever. And like you're just like, what? Really? Are you serious? Like I didn't want them to feel like that, and just kind of just be. I wanted them to just be normal like the other kids. You know what I mean? And not have a not eat, because that's a hard thing, man, when you're socially isolated from your friends. But I mean, if it comes down to lack of parenting, man, it really really does. It comes down to, you know, not teaching your kid right from wrong. Um, and I think that a lot of these kids just like they really live in like the matrix. They're in the matrix all the time, the digital matrix, and they develop lack of empathy. I think they don't get touched enough when it comes to like hugs and like affection. Um, you know what I mean? The kids need that. Kids need affection. Like they need their mom. They need their dad. They need like a hug here and there. They need to be told they like I love you and stuff like that. There's a lack of human touch, like a huge, especially now, man. There's a huge lack of human touch, and then like the COVID thing put it on steroids. You got kids that have been wearing masks, and they don't know like facial expressions. Um, so it's a complete like social isolation that's happening right now, currently, and that's been happening. And this is a huge problem of, you know, like the lack of human touch. I heard that they were saying on Timcast one time, uh if a baby doesn't get like a human touch, it'll die. Like a newborn. I don't know if that's true, but like it's complete neglect. Like babies need touch. They need to be held. They need to feel safe. I think a lot of kids just don't feel safe. They might feel safe, but they don't feel, maybe their future's safe. Maybe they don't feel like they're getting enough support from their family. And it's not just their parents, it's also the grandparents as well. You know what I mean? So I think it's like this has been passed down, and it's having more and more, and these kids are realizing like I don't want my kids raised in this society, so they're like, I'm not gonna have kids. Why would I want to raise kids like this? I'm not happy. I'm miserable. And then a lot of them are just not having kids. So I really do think it's irresponsible for people like Elon and Tim Pool to be like, everybody like just have kids. Like I understand what you're saying. I understand like the economic ramifications of people not having kids. I understand the cultural ramifications, but also like a lot of people have to understand there's a lot of people with mental illnesses nowadays. There's a lot of kids with mental illnesses that they can't even take care of themselves, let alone a baby, man. Like a baby is a ton of responsibility. It helped me mature. Like and I'm still immature, but like it helped me having kids stick with my job and keep plowing forward and like working hard to be able to take care of them. I've been in my son's lives like soon as they were born. I was there. I've been there. You know, my kids are older now. And it's like, they're men now, so like, obviously they don't need me to be like, but like, yeah, there's another thing too, like when, like, the social isolation from the family, um, the lack of learning things, I think that parents do too much for their kids, and they don't make them do different experiences, um, learn different things, uh, and you're putting them at a real detriment when you let them come out into society. But what's happening is, because they can take care of themselves, they're not getting the skills, the basic skills being taught to them about life, about how, like, reality. They're not stupid, even like lazy. Like, if that's how they are, so that's because like that's the conditioning that they're in. Dude, like, seriously, man, like the lack of human touch nowadays is crazy. I'm used to it, man. Seriously, I'm used to it. Um, when the lockdowns happened, and I was like, the big things with the lockdowns is like, it didn't really affect me too much. I mean, I went to work, I did my thing, and a lot of people, uh, in my experience, growing up until like, even to COVID, man, until that happened, it seemed like, even being an introvert, I mean, it started teetering to like being more introvert. I've noticed more introverts, but when I was growing up, there was hardly any introverts. Like, I was there was introverts, no doubt, but most people were like extroverts. I remember like going to, like, family get-togethers, and things like that are, or just like a barbecue, and and you got the adults sitting around, talking or whatever, and I never really, even being an adult, like, wanted to be around that. I didn't like having so many of these people at one spot. um I always wanted to go out and like play, you know what I mean? Even being an adult, like um my kids are gonna go play, and I'm like, I'm gonna go. I'd rather go, throw the football with my kids than sit here and talk to these adults about bullshit. Um, but a lot of people, I think, were highly affected by the lockdowns, and I think that turned a lot of people into introverts. That closed a lot of people off. Uh, I've even done it more so, um, and I'm trying to like get out of that now. But like, I really close myself off to people like big time. Um, Part of the reason why I did that is because with economics, with, um, that type of like psychology, like, um, that huge psychic, the huge change to the psyche. I think like that put people on edge. That's a big shift. Now, when I was conditioned, you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty much used to being by myself a lot, moving around all the time, and, like, kind of like gave up making like friends. Like, I would make some, but like, I always felt like I would just end up leaving anyway. So I didn't really, I, you know, I've noticed that like when I moved around lately, or found it's like starting different jobs, is like I'm gonna like close myself off to people because I'm thinking about leaving, or it was kind of, but anyway, like, they don't probably have to deal with that. But I noticed hardly any introverts back then. So I felt so different than everybody, man. I felt so different than everybody. I felt like such an outcast. But it's just like, when you do that, and you isolate people, and they're not used to being isolated. When you take the kids out of the schools, and then now they have to remote learn, and they're not like with their peers physically. They can't have conversations in person. They can't read like the body language, or like, like you get a nudge, like you're joking around, like you just, the social cues, like, come on, you're just messing around, like a little playful shove or something like that. Lack of human touch. Like, human touch is so huge. And you wonder, and people, generally speaking now, and it's not just kids that are going through this, adults are going through this as well. There's so many people that aren't having relationships. They just want to be closed off and then doing their own things. And, it's a big, like, detriment. And that's, I guess that's kind of, like, I don't hear anyone like going into like talking about like this. Like, I think they all just seem like they don't know, but I think it's lack of empathy, because kids aren't getting enough physical touch. They're not getting enough like affection, from their family. Like um physical touch from other kids. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I would go out and play with my friends when I was young, man, like we would play football, man. Even if it's just like rowdy for like boys, that's still, you're still getting that human touch. And I think a lot of these kids just aren't even, they're not getting it even from like their friends. Um, so like I've even like, so like when I went back to my old job here in Michigan, I worked with a bunch of Gen Z men, and they're very like, they talk and everything, but like I don't think they even hang out as much and do things as much. So they lack, like, they're all in the matrix. They're all in the matrix, man. Like, seriously. I thought it was pretty cool, like when we moved, like my kids could still like talk to their friends when they, like on the internet. So like they lack human touch, and I think that really makes them feel like almost robotic, man. And they do lack empathy, and I'm wondering if this is all like the plan, you know. Um, and it helps people to be on edge. Um, you're not getting that like social like cues from people, and you know, um, I think like technology definitely is good, man. I think that it's definitely good to help us out, but like I think that we have to balance technology for real life. You have to have your kids getting touch from other kids, whether it's like like I said, like an affection from the family, like hugs. You know what I mean? Um, like when my kids are small, I give them kisses on the forehead. You know what I mean? Like maybe they get a ton of affection, but when I look at like how things are socially, what happened with like COVID, that was a big thing, but like that just made things like a ton worse. I just don't think I just when you're having talking to another human, especially at that age, man, when you're younger, you need friends. And when all your friends aren't really in there in person, they're all on the internet. Like, yeah, you're doing your little thing on like the video games, like they're doing their missions, but like just being there in person, just like, even if you're not doing nothing, you're just joking around and just, you know, everyone's on their phone. I do this myself, and I noticed it was so funny. I kind of predicted it. I could tell this one guy. Like today, I was walking home from um, my walk this morning, and this guy was walking past me, and he's like a nerdy guy, right? And he had the long hair with the glasses, and I could tell like this dude probably is like an incel or something. And then soon as we started getting close, he popped up his cell phone, started looking at it, and my peripheral vision is so good. As soon as like he got to the side of me, he put it down. that's the instinct, and I've done that before. I don't want to talk to someone, so I just look at my phone, so I don't even have to act like they even exist. That's where we are. Like I said, adults are doing this too. People who are in trouble, instead of helping them, people just pull out their cell phones and record it. Um, I think that social media is pretty much a bad thing for most people, um, unless you can balance things. And these kids all want to be famous. They all want to go viral. It doesn't matter if it's for something good or for something bad. They want to be accepted. Okay, and they're not being accepted. So they lash out violently in this type of, I don't know about this one, but they don't feel you can just look at the Columbine thing. Like, those guys were outcasted, and they keep on attacking their peers. Like, they go for their peers because they feel rejected by their peers. But it starts at home. um Anyway, so I guess that's it. But yeah, I think it is. I think it's the lack of human touch from friends, from family, just like, affection, like families being together. Families aren't together, man. Like, you don't have that no more. I'm not saying all, but like, it's not like it was, back in the day. Um, I used to see so many more families like doing more family things, but families like get together, they might even eat together, but they're all on their phones. You know what I mean? It's just that's all I have to say about that.